All right, so we're recording now. If we just start off with a
Yeah.
bit of background on yourself.
I was born and raised in London, South London.
Hmm.
Well, Southwest London actually, Southwest.
Okay.
Originally
Oh, no,
from,
Fulham area.
you know, no, Brixton,
Okay,
Brixton.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And then I moved from Brixton to South East London with my family. This was late 90s, mid to late 90s. We moved away. It was getting a bit rough. The area was getting
yeah,
rough. My dad's was away, and I just grew up in southeast, Woolwich area.
yeah.
It was a lot different back then, uh, because I think you really didn't have the influx of migration that you have today.
Right, yeah,
So, you know, uh, it's a West African sort of background or family orientation. We sort of stuck out like a sore thumb back then. You know what
of
I mean?
course, yeah,
Um, and that was at a time when you had uh, National Front was still the
Mm.
tail end of National Front and the British National Party,
Yeah.
because I remember the marches that some of them would have and some of the things that, my family would have to go through. But then, that changed in time. Uh,
Was
you
it
know,
bad or was just like
uh,
small slurs,
I
stuff
f
like that? Or there was violence? What
when
level was it?
do you know what? It's like back then because you still had like the skinhead culture,
Yeah,
right? So it was at the end of a time where sort of they they had an office in Welling, and
mm.
Welling wasn't too far. Welling wasn't too far from Woolwich. They'd have a lot of marches. You'd see a lot of, back then people would still use the phone box and phone cards. So you'd
Yeah,
see a lot of NF like etched in, to the phone boxes, spray painted, and like you couldn't escape it. You know what I mean? Because
yeah,
at some point you would see
yeah,
some
yeah,
sort of,
yeah. Some
you know,
graffiti or stuff like that. Yeah,
exactly. But I remember when I was in primary school, man. You had things like shit put through our letterbox, swastikas, outside at the
okay.
bottom of the road, was sprayed on the wall, you know. Um, yeah, I had the N words called to me, over time.
Yeah,
But the irony, the funny thing is this, right? The twist is that a lot of those people that were outright racist and displaying those sort of behaviors
yeah,
ended up becoming like sensitive to black people because the more black people that moved into the area and Asian people and other people, they started to integrate. And I saw a change, like actually saw a change occur. Do you know what I
yeah.
mean? I witnessed the transition of people who would have classified themselves as racist. Um, these are people that were my age that I went to school with. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I saw a shift. I saw a shift. Um, so they became like more accepting and I don't want to say we became friends, but we would,
You could
sort
get
of
along
talk
to a
and
level.
I
Yeah.
could get along. And it was more of them, I think on their journey of growth, it was more about them learning and accepting difference. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
Um, on their evolutionary path, it was
I
more
also
about them.
think a lot of racism is to
Yeah.
do with cultural differences. And so
Oh
once
yeah,
you've
no doubt.
integrated into the culture and you're speaking like them and you're doing some of the same stuff like football, for example, that's a big one, then it all kind of comes together a lot and they see, oh, they're kind of similar to us, really. You know what I mean? I think
Yeah,
it's more cultural differences at first, and then the skin color just highlights the difference, if you know what I mean.
of course, of course.
Yeah.
There's a fear. You know what I mean? That an innate fear of anything. People fear what difference. Things that
Yeah.
are different. If you're not, some people like a working lower class man might be intimidated of somebody who's posh. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and from a
Exactly.
private school and you know, so it's a fear of But you're right, man. When you integrate, and it's important because that's where we are. we're in a place where we need to integrate with people. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
We can't not integrate. That's how you learn. That's how you grow.
definitely,
You know?
definitely, definitely. All right, so moving on a little bit, tell me about how you got into religion, Islam, Christianity.
Okay, so um, my father was from Christian background.
Hmm.
My mother from a Muslim background. As I said, West African. My father was, and I say
Was it
was because they both.
Nigeria?
Yeah, my father was Nigerian, Yoruba.
Hmm.
Mother Sierra Leone, Fulani. If you know anything about the Fulani, they're predominantly Muslim
Okay.
group of people, tribe throughout sort of like the diaspora of Africa. Um, they're pretty widespread. They tend to be tradesmen, herders, businessmen, things like that. Um, but what you'll find is that there's a sort of taboo against people from that background who happen to be Muslim integrating with Christians. And you can see
Right.
that now in northern Nigeria, where you have like the Hausa people
Yeah,
and
I've heard a lot about that. Yeah. So I've got
you
a
know,
friend who's from South Nigeria, the
right?
Igbo tribe. And so he says
Yes,
there's always a lot
yeah,
of conflict between them and the Northerners over farmland and stuff like that.
yeah. There's a big thing, man, with that because even in Nigeria, man, and we know that Nigeria, that's a British colonial invention, But with that said, it's like you have over like 240 different dialects. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That are there, and then these people are sort of just told, you have to sort of live together.
Yeah.
And,
I mean,
over
I can't
time,
remember what year was
yeah,
it? I think it was in the maybe the 50s or the 60s. There was a Nigerian civil war, right?
the
Because the
Biafra War,
South, the Biafra War.
yeah,
So my friend's dad,
yeah,
he fought in the war. He fought
right,
in the war. So he was like a child soldier fighting for Biafra,
yeah,
trying to split away
yeah,
from the Nigerians and form
from
their own
Nigerians,
country.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
right, and a lot of the Igbos, that's what they want. You know what I mean? They want
yeah,
their
exactly.
independence,
Yeah, they still
you
want
know,
that. Yeah,
and that's not a bad thing because I think the fear in that is, I know we're sort of talking about Nigeria. I think the fear is, like the economy of Nigeria and how that will
yeah,
change.
because they've got a lot of oil fields down there,
Yeah,
don't they? Yeah,
that's right. That's right. There are a lot of foreign interests, in
yeah.
that area, but you know, to say that, you know, in the least is just basically to say, look, these people they've been told, you have to live amongst these people, and you have to, although you have your way of life. It's similar to here, the UK, because a lot of people here in the UK would say, well, I am not, integration is it's good, but at the end of the day, we want our sovereignty. It might not go back to the days of the British Empire, but Britain for British. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
we're far removed from that. You know what I mean? Because I think for people over there, sorry, I know I'm ranting, but I think for people
No,
over
go
there,
on. It's all right.
it's sort of more of a tribal sort of, when you're a part of a tribe, you have customs, you have traditions, you have things that go in line with those
Yeah.
beliefs. And when you're told to just, live amongst a group of people, you feel as if those things are being taken away or lost. So
Right.
I understand where the Igbo come from. I understand where the Hausa come from. I understand where the Yoruba come from. People from the Delta region, they want their independence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, like in regards to faith, we predominantly was like the Christian side of things that were sort of predominant in my house. So I
Yeah.
go around with my dad's family, and it was very Christian orientated. But then I go around my mum's Muslim. You know what I mean? Islam. You know, I remember like I had an aunt in Brixton. Her name was Safi. And my aunt Safi, every time I go there, like she had the Quran praying, she had Bukur burning, and she used to pray. She used to cover her head. So I used to see elements of Islam growing up and elements of Christianity growing up. But I never really connected. I was never connected to any of the faiths because what you find over here is, or like anywhere, is that when you're young, you're sort of not told to do, but you're sort of geared towards what your parents' beliefs are,
Yeah, definitely.
and you don't,
Yeah.
you know, and we
Yeah,
see
same
that
for
with a
me.
lot of the,
Mm.
you know what I mean. But how about what about you? Like in terms of faith, like is it
So growing up, my dad was Rastafarian, but like very
right?
spiritual kind of Rastafarian. So
What
I'd read
like was it is it more like a Naya Benge sort of
I don't know the terms exactly, but it was like very
right
like a easy going, like not very strict, if that makes sense. He didn't eat
yes yeah
meat, of course, no meat of,
right
and he wouldn't. I don't think he eats fish either. But
okay
apart from that, fairly easy going. But
yes
as a child, I'd read passages from the Old Testament. So I had like a
right
belief in Christianity, you could say, an Abrahamic God growing up.
yes
Yeah, yeah.
yeah yeah. Oh, that's interesting, man. So you I know you must have an understanding more so for uh the apocryphas,
That's more later in life once I started doing my own
right?
research. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right.
But he always
Okay.
told me,
Okay.
but again, so because we weren't Christian, we always looked at the Old
Yeah.
Testament from like a different standpoint, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we didn't
And you
really
know
take the
what?
gospel as
Yeah.
faith or anything like that. Yeah,
I understand. I understand, and I
yeah,
admire that because you see, that's the thing about religion, and that's the thing about being, you're sort of a part of a gang. I don't want to use the word
yeah.
gang,
I
but
know
you're
what you
part
mean.
of like,
Organization.
what I'm saying,
Yeah,
your
yeah,
organization, and you've classified, you've limited
yeah,
yourself to this, and it doesn't allow free thinking. Um,
yeah.
it
I
doesn't
think
allow you to
one
sort
of
of
the big problems my dad had with Christianity is because it was taught to him
right,
in Jamaica, and he always saw it as
right,
like a foreign system, if that makes sense, like a European
yeah,
religion.
yeah,
So like it was
yeah,
never New Testament stuff I was told to
right.
read. It was always Old Testament. Yeah, I can
But
understand where he comes
that's
from, but
yeah,
mm,
yeah, and it's like because when you see it in so many communities, man. Like when people are young, they might be given a name, and then they might be told, "Oh, well, you're going to go to Sunday school, or you're going to
mm,
go to the madrasa, or you're going to go to the temple, or you're going to go," and then it's like because they're so like their brain is like a sponge. They adopt
yeah,
everything as a child. You grow up, and you believe like believing. What I mean in
it
what you
becomes a
know
part of your being.
exactly,
Yeah,
and then you're sort of cemented into this person
yeah,
where when you grow up, by the time you grow up, it's like, well, this is all I know, or this is what I know.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
exactly.
And and I think when I got to the age of 15, I disconnected. You know what I mean, from both. I disconnected from
Yeah,
Christianity. I disconnected from Islam. I totally disconnected, and I said to myself, you know what? Like, I need to start like reading. I need to start researching. But that didn't come until like I was 19 in college.
yeah.
Because when I was in college, I was exposed to there's a friend of mine, um, Damien, and he started talking about the Illuminati.
Okay,
And I was
yeah.
like, oh, okay, who are these guys? He's like, oh, they're the dumb daddies, man. They're like they run the
They're
show
the
and
top of the
and I
pyramid.
was
Yeah,
yeah, you know what I mean, and
yeah,
and back then, and I'm talking about early 2000s, man, when there was
yeah.
no YouTube, like people were on the cusp of like still watching
Just before
DVDs and
the internet started really
yeah,
picking up. Yeah,
exactly, before it
yeah,
blew up, and it became popular culture because that's essentially what it is now. But before all of that, you know what I mean? So I was intrigued. I was like, oh, what is this stuff? And I started asking questions. Then I started to read books. Like I looked at the Bavarian Order, Adam Weishaupt, and how it started. I started looking into Freemasonry. I started looking into the beliefs and teachings of the Scottish Rite and the York Rite, and then I started looking
yeah.
at you know I started looking into uh, I wouldn't say at that point I started looking into like Hermeticism, but it was more so looking into secular doctrines that were not of, mainstream belief. So
Yeah.
things that people wouldn't usually say, let me read about or look into. So like a lot of things to do with the occult, you know what I mean? I started
Yeah, I
looking
know what you
into,
mean. Yeah.
you know,
Like
and I was
secret
always drawn,
societies, stuff like that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
secret societies and and I never in my mind because I would use thought, oh, they're evil, they're bad, and that was the way that it was put across. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But then I never like, I said, well, why is it that this knowledge, like I started asking questions like, why is it that this knowledge exists? And if it does exist, why don't other people know about it?
Yeah.
Why is it that why is it is hidden? The word occult is, the root of it is
Means
means hidden.
hidden. Yeah. Yeah.
Why is this hidden information that can actually sort of enlighten people,
Yeah.
right? So I started talking about it, and that was a mistake because a lot of the people that I would talk to were people that were religious. They were people
Okay.
of certain faiths, and I realized that that was that was the that was the sort of point in time where I felt alone. I felt like I can only share so much of what I know. I looked into Egypt. Looked into Samaria. I looked in. I was just looking into history
Yeah.
and reading as much as I could, as much information as I could retain. You know what I mean? And I just realized that, man, I was just like, there had with all of this understanding, with all of this knowledge, with all of this wisdom that is out there, that is hidden, there must be a supreme force that governs this universe or the known universe or the known universes. There must be a governing body, okay,
Yeah.
or a state of consciousness that actually, you know, manifests what we perceive as reality. You understand? And then the answer started to come to me. And then I realized, I said, I need for me, what made sense to me, Sufism for me, Sufism for me made a lot more sense. And I know we were just going to touch on
Yeah. We're going
Sufism.
to get into Islam and Sufism later. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, and there's two reasons why. The first reason is because I think culturally, coming from West African background,
Yeah.
that is the expression of um of Islam. That is I would say hardwired not only into my DNA, but schools of thought. You know, it down that road of Sufism, and the other reason why is that attachment of being able to get closer to that creator that I spoke about. You know, is for me that's it's a foundation that I use personally um, to do so. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, man. To answer, that's a long-winded answer, man, for your question, but um,
It's no
yeah,
problem.
that's
It's a
that's
good
that's
one. It's a good answer. Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, so that's how you go into Sufism. If we move on a bit, let's say how did you if you could explain like the basics of Islam?
When you say the basics, what do you mean? Like in terms of,
Um the basic tenets basically, the basic beliefs.
oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So from my understanding, um, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, delivered a message for mankind, and the message was to, uh, observe your 5 daily prayers in remembrance of Allah, to give charity, uh, to Allah, not only for Allah or to others, but on behalf of your belief, to give charity to others. Okay, to observe Ramadan. That's really, one of the things that we're meant to do. To uh, go on our journey, our pilgrimage to Makkah,
Yeah.
and to basically profess that there's no other God than Allah. Okay, these are known as like the five pillars of Islam.
Hmm.
Okay, and those tenets, as well as some would say like some would say the Sunnah. Okay, following the Sunnah. Now, Sunnah like can be looked upon as, people have their own interpretation of the Sunnah. Because some will say, well, the Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad or the Sunnah of Islam. So these are like the tenets
Can you just
and the
clarify a bit what
ways.
sunnah is?
So Sunnah is like, uh, your the way that you sort of display yourself as a Muslim, being
Okay.
pious, being kind, and holding belief, in your heart,
Yeah.
and yeah, like it's just like your morals, what I mean, your moral path, um,
Yeah.
following that which the Quran is telling you to do,
It's like the
you
way
know,
of life,
uh,
basically.
the way of like a
Yeah.
way of life. Do you know what I mean? And I think that sort of foundation is very good, in in regards to this sort of world that we're in. You need a sort of moral code of conduct. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that falls in line with 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 Islam. I mean, it can be interpreted in so many different ways. It can be interpreted in so many different ways. But and what I mean by that is one person from one sect might say smoking is makruh, it's not haram,
Oh yeah, because I
or
know it's like different divisions of some things are entirely forbidden, others are you're
yeah,
not supposed to do, but you can, and then it goes
but
up like that.
exactly,
Some things you have to do, others you
yeah.
should do, but you don't have to. Yeah.
That's right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you have varying degrees of like these sort of understandings. And people, I think human beings have always done that. Like throughout history, they've always interpreted things the way. If they didn't, you wouldn't have so many different sects.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have so many different, So so yeah, man, like those things can be open, but those core five things that I named earlier, profession of Islam, giving charity, uh, you know, your salah 5 times a day, those things there are things that you have to do. These are like core
Yeah.
tenets, core value or core
O-
practices that you have to,
Of the faith.
of,
Yeah.
yeah, of the faith.
Hmm.
So, so yeah, so yeah, man, it can be, yeah,
Okay.
it's not easy, man. It's not easy.
I know my next question was to do with
Yeah.
the community within, like, let's say within London, so the one you're part
Mm.
of, the Islamic. You mentioned yesterday that there's some things you weren't sure you wanted to talk about, which is why we took off the camera. Could you go into more detail on that?
Well, I would honestly say that I love my Muslim brothers. I love my Christian brothers. I love people in general. Anybody that's good, womankind. Anybody that does good, you get love from me. But
Yeah.
I say that to say that I don't. For me, it's a personal journey. Um, Simply because of some of the beliefs that I might have may not align with other brothers, who classify themselves as Muslims,
Yeah.
especially brothers that will say that they're like Sunni Muslims, yeah,
Yeah.
like if you follow the Sunnah, they might not agree with uh, any other secular thought or belief in Islam. You understand? And
Yeah.
you can't sort of express your belief because in Sufism, like I'm not an Islamic scholar, but I'm going by what I practice and I know the remembrance of Allah. Okay. Uh, there are 99 attributes or names that Allah
Yeah.
has. There are different names that you call upon. And these names are frequencies. These names are energies that you call upon in order to aid you. You revere, but in order to aid you on your journey. So you might have, uh, some tasbih beads, and we might call upon those names, and we might recite certain prayers in a certain way or certain surahs in a certain way. But the way it's done, it might be secular or different to how a Sunni Muslim might do it.
Right.
Do you get it? And because of that, um, there's a sect called like the Ahmadiyya, and I think they believe it's like the offshoot. It was Ali. They believe the teachings of Ali, as opposed to Muhammad being the final prophet. And a lot of those brothers are really like they're persecuted, not persecuted, but they're really hated on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know,
Are they like a Shia group?
like a Shia group. You know,
Yeah.
they're like a Shia group. And those brothers have a really, and I mean it's twofold, man, because you have these sects that constantly argue with each other,
Yeah.
and they're trying to constantly, it's like a power dynamic, you know. Well, what I'm saying is correct because da 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 da. No, what I'm saying is correct because da da da. And then it leads nowhere.
Yeah, I
It
had a
leads
Muslim
nowhere.
friend who I worked with for a bit, and then I was asking
Yeah.
him about Shias and stuff, and he was like, "No, no, no, they're wrong, they're wrong." Like he wasn't even trying
Mm.
to hear it.
It's true, man. I used to be that way. I used to be like the same way. But now, with my understanding, I'm like, well, you choose to believe in what you believe in. I'm not going to go against what you believe in because that's what you believe. And even if you do believe in it, as long as you're not harming me or harming anybody else, do what you do. You understand?
Yeah,
Now, if they call themselves Muslims, who am I to say that they're not a Muslim? That's what they
yeah,
believe. That's what they say. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna agree. I might not agree with it. I might not agree with it, right? But that's what they say. That's what they believe, and in their core of hearts, that's what they believe. I used to be the same way. I used to be, oh, they're not Muslim. Da, 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 da. But the way I see it is, as long as you profess that first line of the Shahada, La ilaha illallah, right? Muhammadu Abdul Rasulullah, that means that there is no other God but Allah, and that Muhammad, peace be upon him, the Rasul, is the last
yeah,
messenger, right? Of Allah. If you believe that and you understand that, then I believe that that classifies you as a Muslim. You can't just stand there arguing with somebody 45 minutes to an hour, trying to prove something that you have no power over.
yeah,
Because you have to understand that the faith that you adhere to, there is only one power. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? And if you understand that power, then that power is the ultimate judge, decider of whatever belief you have. So I think it's ridiculous. I don't,
yeah. I've seen like
you know,
people argue with other groups as well. So I believe there are people
yeah.
called Quranists who don't believe in the what are they called? The slip my mind. What's the
Mm,
Hadiths? They don't believe in the Hadiths. They just
right,
believe in the
right,
Quran.
yeah.
So I've seen people
In the
debate over
Quran,
that
yeah,
as well. Yeah,
yeah. And to some extent I agree with that. The Quran itself was a revelation from Jibril, Gabriel. See, that's another thing we need to get into, angels.
yeah,
But from Jibril, one of the Elohim, that was a revelation that was given. You know what I mean? Now, why would you add anything else other than that revelation? Because that revelation is a direct message from God
from God.
that
Yeah,
was given. You know what I mean? So why would you deviate? And I'm not saying that I'm not going against the hadiths, but there are some things in the hadiths that, some people brought things up like a bit of racism, you know what I'm saying, and
right.
other
Yeah,
things, and then you're like, oh, yeah, well, if a different man wrote this, should I really be following that? You know,
yeah,
so the Quran doesn't actually say to follow the hadiths. Should I be following the hadiths as opposed to the Quran? And so it's a very, and then it just opens it up to a whole other sort of group, like you just mentioned. It opens it up to a whole other sort of area.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's like,
He puts the whole
yeah,
faith into
yeah,
it throws it all up in the air, really, if you think about it.
it does,
Because if you've got
it
people who only
does,
believe in the Quran, but the mainline religion believes in hadiths, you're always going to have a
yeah,
conflict there,
that's
Yeah,
right, that's right. So this is the variations that we have,
yeah.
amongst it. But to go back to the root of what you asked, I feel more comfortable. It's a personal relationship with God.
Hmm.
In the Quran, it actually says that I should kneel with my brother in prayer, which is something that I honestly should do more of. I used to go to the mosque every Friday, bro. I used to go to the mosque, not even on a Friday, like on other days. I like just go, stop by, pray in the mosque, and talk to brothers. But I realized something. It's a clicky sort of thing.
Mm.
And if you're not like that, you're looked upon and it's true, man. If you're not like a certain way, you're looked upon as other. So
Yeah.
if you're not wearing,
You have to
you
conform.
know,
It's very
the jalaba, you
conformist.
have to you're very conformist, man. And if
Yeah.
I'm not conforming to what you're conforming to, you're just not gonna look at me like like I'm a proper Muslim.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
true. It's true. Like like, I'm black. I was born in Britain. I'm not. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many
Yeah.
reasons as to why I'd be looked at
Yeah.
as.
Cultural differences.
You get
Yeah.
it? Big,
Yeah.
big time. And I think these are some of the things that these it's not good. Like, those are some of the things that aren't good, because you have to say to yourself, look, the culture itself. Look, I'm just gonna say this. This is why, like, I follow the path of Tasawwuf. Tasawwuf is
Hmm.
the more internal connection. It's the spiritual aspect of Islam.
Mm.
Okay. So, like the Christians, they would have like the Gnostics, or there's another group, begins with the letter A. But they have
Mm.
a spiritual path. The Jewish,
Was it one of
they
the
may
earlier
follow.
groups?
Yeah,
Yeah. One like
yeah. One of the
before it
earlier.
got organized. Yeah. Yeah.
Correct. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There was a
yeah.
lot of
Before
them.
it goes,
Do you know there was a
you
one
know,
group? I think they're called like the Ophidium or something like Ophidians or something like that because they use
right.
snakes. They use snakes in their
Yes.
rituals as like
Right.
hallucinogenics and stuff like that. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's a,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
okay. Yeah. You
We can
see?
go into we'll get into that later, but there's a lot of
Yeah.
esotericism within Jesus's work. So
Within
we'll
his
touch
work
on
and
it.
his teachings. Yeah.
His
There's a
teachings,
lot.
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can see it in the groups that for the early Christian
Yes.
groups. A lot of them were doing different kind
Yeah.
of magic rituals and stuff like that, and in
There you
apocryphas as
go.
well. But yeah,
There you
but
go.
you
And you
continue.
see,
We'll get to that later. Yeah.
even like, I'll bring up the story of when Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was traveling, and he was in the desert, and he was reciting, and one of his followers was told to stay in a circle. So Muhammad, peace be upon him, drew a circle, and he stayed in the circle, because outside of the circle was a group of jinn. Okay,
Mm.
and he was told not to leave the circle. And now, when you look at uh any sort of let's say ritual that you're doing to bring down an energy, you might do a sigil on the ground, and you'll
Yeah,
use salt, right, around it,
yeah,
to bind the entity, okay, in the circle
mm.
or outside of the circle. Most of
Yeah.
the
So you
time,
might stand
it's to
inside and yeah.
bind. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Mm.
You stand aside, and then you create that circle. So these things have always been used over the ages, you
Definitely,
know.
not just in Western or Middle Eastern culture, but even in Japan, for
Mm,
example, they use salt
yeah,
for to banish spirits and to cleanse areas. Yeah,
that's right. To
yeah,
cleanse areas, put salt by the windowsill, put salt in
yeah.
front of your doorstep, you know, recite a prayer, before you do it,
Hmm.
you know, use salt on the body because another thing is the pH content of salt and lemon. Um, and again, this is a Sufi practice as well to to use purification.
Yeah.
Uh, because energy, the transference of it is ridiculous, man. Like when we go, let's say we go to the gym, the amount of people that we touch things, we're energy, we're light, we're light beings. You know what I'm saying? And we're
Yeah.
we're picking up all these energies around us, and we're touching different things. We're sitting on certain things, and then we adopt all this energy. One way to purify and cleanse yourself would be to use salt water and
Mm.
lemon, salt water, lemon, as well as there's certain herbs that you can use as well.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get too much into it, but there's certain herbs you can use. Yeah, I'm not
Off
going to
off
get too much.
camera.
Off camera,
Off
man, off
camera. Yeah,
camera,
yeah.
definitely.
Can't be giving
But
away
you'll
secrets
pray.
here.
Nah, not all of them, man. You'll pray into it, and you'll speak your intentions. Because sound has vibration, it carries frequency. So, who's that Japanese? Is it the
I
Japanese
know which one
scientist
you're
who
talking about. I think I
you
know
you
with the
know what I'm
water.
talking about with the
Yeah, and you
water?
speak
Yeah.
to the
So
water and it
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
he
it
spoke to the
changes color or
water.
something like that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
Like
it is the way
purifies it. Yeah. Mm. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it crystallized it in a particular way, positive,
Yeah.
negative, words were spoken in
And that
one,
experiment's
negative in
been
the other.
repeated as well.
Oh yeah, it works.
Yeah.
It works, man. It
Yeah.
definitely works. And again, this is why like intention and vibration and words and what you say and how you say it, it really carries merit, so
Definitely.
if I've got my tasbih and I'm saying the names of Allah a certain time, I'm chanting, I'm invocating
Yeah.
energy. You know what I mean? I'm bringing up an energy. So it's like Sufism is that it's the tasawwuf. It's looking at the more spiritual aspect. When Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, when he went to get the revelation and he was staying in the cave, he meditated. That's what he was doing. He was meditating.
Mm.
He was given the names of Allah to call upon, and he was meditating and praying, supplicating, and in doing so, this is how all of this, I believe, like very mystic. It's very mystical. The mysticism behind it. You
Yeah.
understand?
Definitely.
It's
Definitely.
very
Yeah.
it's very and that's the essence of it, as opposed to, like, there's two sides to every coin now, because the other side of duality when it comes to the faith is that it's being taught in a way where you're being taught it to be practical, okay? And there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, it's very good. You teach it in a way where people listen to what you say and they understand what you say. The theoretical side, okay, the other side that will actually
The
connect
mystical
you,
side. Yeah.
the mystical side is that's not the side that is being touched or tapped
Yeah.
into. Do you get it? And
Definitely.
it's
Yeah.
that core essence that I believe that
But then I would ask you,
um yeah.
to counter that, I would say, is that not intentional? Or is Islam always supposed to be a mystical thing and it got derailed at some point? Or is it supposed to be
it
practical?
I believe over the time of when you had like the different caliphs, okay,
Hmm.
and when Islam disbanded, you had all these different schools of thought. So you had the Salafi, you had the Hanafi, the Maliki, you had all these different schools of thought, you had all these different sort of ways of doing it, okay? And I believe that there was some elements that were kept as the original form. And in my belief, personally, I believe in Sufism. I
Hmm.
believe that the Sufi has always looked and kept that spiritual essence
Hmm.
of Islam and what it is to be. um close to Allah or close to, the universe or the Most High, to be one
So
with
would
it.
you
Because
say that Islam, the mystical side was taken out or kind of put in a corner so that the practical side and like the conformity was made the main part, control basically
yeah,
turned into a system of
yeah, but
control.
yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
because in order for you to be able to control, let's say, a society, you have to do that. You have to
Yeah.
take it out. Like I think we spoke about um the whole thing with what was it? Wahhabism. Okay.
Mm.
And that's a very, very strict form of Islam, incredibly strict form of Islam. So Wahhabism, is very formal. It's practiced in Saudi Arabia, very strict form of Islam. But and even like Mauritania, you know,
Yeah.
they're very, very, very like children, like in Mauritania, like children will be hit in order for them to learn the Quran. And if
Yeah.
they recite it wrong, then they'll be hit again and then they have to start it over. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So and it's like where in the Quran does it say that? You know, where does it say that you should do that to a child? Somebody who's at least trying to learn, you know, uh, the words of Arabic. You beat them until they can recite it properly. That's instilling fear. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like those elements of control are necessary in order for you to be able to have dominance over society. You know what I mean? Or if you want people to literally just as civilians fall in line, you have to remove it because if you don't remove it, your people start like it's an awakening, isn't it?
Yeah.
You start
You
you
start thinking
start
for yourself. Yeah.
it's like thinking for yourself. Do you know what I mean? And you get messages, man. You get dreams. You get signals and signs, and it's connecting the spiritual with the physical when you start doing it. Signs come to you every single day, but you look past the signs. You look past the. Some people take it literal. Some people be skeptical, but you look past the cat that is walking down the road looking at you,
Yeah.
or you look past the bird that stops in front of your path, or you look past the little child that smiles at you, or you look past, the old lady that says thank you, but you don't look at the deeper meaning of it. You
Mm.
don't
The
look at the
symbology.
deeper the symbology, the
Yeah.
significance of why am I seeing that? There are days that I go by where I don't see that, but why am I
Yeah.
seeing that? You get it?
And when it
So it's
does, it
like
stands out.
it
Mm.
stands out like a nail, man. Like a sore
Yeah.
thumb. It stands out because you are now consciously aware. You're walking spiritually every day in accordance with, you know, God. You
Yeah.
you are you are you are walking. You're now a walking embodiment. That vibration is with you, and you're holding that vibration as best as you can. And do you know how hard it is to be conscious 100% of the time? We were talking about the Buddhists the other day. They're like
Yeah.
to sit down and be consciously aware that you're a spiritual being constantly, and you're actively looking for everything around you and the significance of everything around you to give you a message and for you to understand and interpret that message.
It's hard, huh?
How do you do that? It's very hard,
Well, that's why they go
especially in
out
this.
into the mountains.
Yeah,
So no more distractions, you know?
that's
If you're
right.
working a
You
full-time
know,
job and you're not really going to be able to do that, you know?
no, no, not
Yeah.
at all.
You can do your best,
Not at
but
all. But exactly,
mm,
but all these thoughts, and that's exactly. I'm glad you brought that up, Jay, because we are working a full-time job. Man, you're thinking about, man, I've got to get this document done. I've got to get that done. I've got to get this done. Your brain is constantly, and then these thoughts enter your
exactly.
mind. Uh, these thoughts who are not, and the thoughts, some of the thoughts are not our own.
Yeah.
Some of the thoughts are not our own, but these thoughts are coming into you. They're bombarding you. You're getting onto a pack train like sardines. Again, all that
Yeah.
energy of different people
Bills to
around
pay.
you, the frequency, the bills to pay, all exactly, all of that's on top of you.
Mm,
And the one thing that can get you out of that is thinking or looking past this,
Mm.
being in tune with that, being in tune with it. And I think that a lot of and this is why this is why sometimes I can't go to. I've seen brothers in the mosque
Mm. Hmm.
be kind in the mosque, yeah, and they do the right thing in the mosque,
Yeah.
but behind closed doors or behind some I've heard things or I've seen things, and I question to myself. I'm like, man, you know, it's a road that I have to walk.
Yeah.
It's a road that I have to walk. I can't walk it with like they're my brothers, man. They're my brothers. You know what I mean? But even from my own brother, even from my own certain brothers, people that I classify family as well, that I classify
Yeah.
as Muslim, or are classified as Muslim, have done things to hurt and harm me.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? They have
Yeah.
done things to hurt and harm me. So that I think with that I've disconnected from
Mm.
that community. Not in the sense where like I want to, not because I wanted to, but I've done it to safeguard me. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Now, am I saying that what do they call like an ex-Muslim or ex-follower? There's a name for it.
Apostate. That's how they Christian.
An
Yeah.
apostate. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Am I saying that I'm an apostate?
You
No,
can't
I'm
say
not
that.
saying that.
You can't say
No,
that.
nah, bro. Who gets
You can't say
gets
that.
stoned? Who gets
You know?
stoned to death? You know what I mean? 1,000 lashes for that. Um, but yeah, man, it's like some people, have
No, no,
felt
no.
that
It's not
like,
1,000 lashes.
yeah,
You're done. That's it.
you're out here, man.
Yeah. You're gone, man.
Finished. You know. But some people, so it's like, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just
Yeah.
saying that like I find it a lot easier for me to be able to follow this path that I have, respectively, as what I mean, and in independence. I think
Yeah.
like when I look at people like Anthony Joshua, you know, and yeah, like Anthony Joshua. I don't know if you know him. He's a rapper called Mos Def, Yasin
I,
Bey.
I don't think so. I
Mos,
know
Mo,
Anthony Joshua, the boxer.
yes, Anthony
Yeah. Yeah.
Joshua, the boxer. So he's a Muslim. Um,
Okay.
then you have Yasin Bey. He's a Muslim. He's a rapper. Some brothers will say,
So that's
music is
music.
bitter, it's haram. Music is bitter. Oh well, we're conflicted now because Prophet Muhammad went into a masjid where peace be upon him, where brothers were, they're beating the drum, they're banging the drum,
Mm.
and he didn't tell them to stop. They were worshiping God, revering God, whilst banging the drum. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So,
But maybe it's
so
because they
music,
were
you
reciting the Quran, so it's a loophole.
well, you see that, yeah, there you go, because it's like a lot of things, a lot of things are seen. So there's like blurred lines, a lot of blurred lines, between
Okay.
between things. Because some people say as long as you're singing about the Quran, then it's not haram.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because it's about God. Yeah.
it's about God. Now
Yeah.
I make music, and the music that I make, I don't use any profanity.
Mm.
I talk about a lot of the things I talk about very philosophical, very positive. You know what I mean? Um, does it mean that I'm condemned to the hellfire? You know what I'm saying? Because
Mm.
because I make music that's positive, because I make music that's meaningful, about what I
Yeah.
create. So this is the thing. It's like it's very, you get somebody who shout in your face. Like I did I no. So the other I was speaking to E the other day because
Yeah.
I went yesterday, and
Yeah.
he was there. So
Yeah.
he was like I told him, I said, look, there was a time where I was doing ablution, right? That's what we got to do before we do our prayer. You wash your arms, You wash your
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
feet,
I'm
wash
familiar
your
with that.
ears, your
Yeah.
head. So I'm doing my purification, my ablution, and there was a guy that stood next to me. I'll never forget. And he said, brother, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. This is how you do it. Look, this is how you do it. And I stood there and I watched him, yeah. And I was an inch, not even an inch. I was about half an inch away from my elbow when I put the water up my arm. And he said, you know, what he said to me to where my mother and father lay. This is what the man said to me, right? He said, "You will go to the hellfire for that. If you don't put water all the way up your arm, you can go to that." He said, "You know,
Yeah.
yeah, Allah will never accept your prayer. Allah will never accept your prayer." I had another brother tell me because I was wearing a t-shirt, right?
Yeah.
And I have a tattoo that's, on my
Okay.
arm. I have a tattoo. And
We say cover
he
up.
prayed like, no, he didn't even do that. He waited until I prayed with him. So we prayed together. Then he told me afterwards, he came to me and he said, "Look, God won't accept your prayers because you were showing your tattoo." So I said to him, I said, "What?" He said, "God won't accept your prayers because you're showing your tattoo." So I said, "Hold on, Mike Tyson has a tattoo on his face, and he went to Mecca and he prayed, right?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Do you think God will accept his prayer?" He
Mm.
went to the Kaaba, he went to the Mecca with a tattoo on
Yeah.
his face, right? And he
Yeah.
prayed. Did God accept his prayer? He said, "Well, it's all about the intention." And I said, "There you go. You've just answered the question for me. It's intention, right?
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
all
yeah.
about the intention. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying?" So it's like you will be
A
subjected
lot
to
of these
hard,
guys, it's just
man.
strict, man. It's like
Yeah,
that's the way they're
it's
brought
like
up, and if you do it different, they have to
it's
point out straight away.
uh,
I don't even think they're doing it from
yeah,
like a negative point of view, to be honest. It's just like that's
mm,
how it's so strict. That's how
that
it
that
has to be
that's
done.
that's how it is.
That's
Yeah,
it.
it has to be
Yeah,
that
yeah,
way,
yeah, yeah,
and that's the sort of Wahhabist sort of strict
yeah.
mentality. And it's not. Look, I'm not trying to sort of like innovate because that's one thing that the Quran says that we shouldn't do. Don't innovate. Don't bring new things into the faith. All right, the
Mm,
faith is the way it is. It's been delivered like that for a particular reason. But when you start, look, it's like even people that I've seen it, man. There's reverts that have come into the faith that have settled in very well. Like they settled in, they've gone on a journey, good Muslims. Then there's reverts that have come into the faith that have left simply because of that, because
yeah,
they're consistently being bombarded with don't do that, do that, do that, do that, just like
yeah.
that. And it's not even from like an aspect of sort of like you mentoring. I've never had that, like a mentor or
Right.
somebody to guide me. I've never had that. I've
Okay.
had certain people recommend things, but never sort of guide me in a way. So it's very easy for you to come into it and adopt the way that other people show you. Okay.
Mm,
But it can be very overwhelming at the same time. If you're an outsider and you're coming in and you're seeing the purity and the beauty of the faith and you're following the faith, but then this guy's telling you, don't do that. You should do that. And it's the
mm.
way that it's being delivered. It's gonna put you off, man.
Definitely, definitely.
You're gonna feel
Especially if you're,
conflicted. You're gonna feel,
especially if you're
yeah,
not from that culture, like if you're from like the West,
that's right.
you know?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I'm glad you brought that up, Jay, because that culture, like the way that it's done, maybe over there in the East, the way that it's done culturally, there are certain, look, man, I'll tell you, man, there are certain people that I've seen cheated on their wife.
Mm,
There's stories, man, cheated on their wife, man. You know, there's someone I know, and it's really heartbreaking, man. It's heartbreaking, brother. He will present himself like the purest Muslim.
yeah.
Salaam alaikum. How are you? Alhamdulillah. All of that. All the catchphrases, all the words, all the got the rings, the oil, the hat, all of that, all
Yeah,
of it.
yeah.
But he's cheating on his wife. He's
Mm,
cheating on his wife, and his wife is a good woman,
mm.
you know? Or it's multiple accounts, man. Multiple accounts. That's why I can't go with the dress. I can't go with what you show me with that. Look, man, it's sunnah to cover your head. It's sunnah to wear a robe that covers your ankles. It's sunnah to do all it. I understand that, but I'm not gonna like what he said the other day. He is correct. Like that appearance doesn't mean everything.
Yeah.
It doesn't. I'm not saying that there aren't brothers who outwardly dress that way who don't have a pure heart and have good
But
intentions and
some
have
of them use it to
follow the
like
right way. But
to hide.
some of them use it to deceive you, man.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised, man. Some there are man, there's man, bro. We got off camera. We'll talk, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll
yeah.
talk. Some of the things that I've seen, some of the things that I've been through, some of the trust that I put in people, all because of that, all because of that,
The appearance, yeah.
all because of the appearance, and then you really you just say to it, it's all shit. It really is like
Yeah.
they
It's
are
no
they
different from any
know,
other religion.
man. It's not, it's
It's
not, my
not.
friend. It's not. So that's why I
And
always
then
say,
if
your
once you say that,
personal
it's
journey.
not once you say it's not like it's the same as any other religion, then you have to call
Mm,
into question again, how do you know it's the correct religion if people
yeah.
practicing it are acting just like everyone else, you know?
That's it. Well, you see, this is it. This is it's like, and I'm glad you asked that question because this is the whole thing with Sufism. It's looking internally. It's pure. You have to purify these aspects. Yeah. So you have to purify that first. That's the first thing you purify. Then you purify that. Okay.
The
Once that's
mind.
purified, the mind.
Yeah. Because
Once
they're not
that's
on camera,
purified,
remember?
yeah, 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 yeah. I know. Yes, yeah. So yeah, you're right. I'll say the mind. So you start with the heart, then the mind. After the mind, it's your body, it's your temple,
Mm,
it's your temple. Then the next stage is spiritual purification, and then when you realize you see like spiritual purification, then you look at it's the purification of everything. So not only the purification of you, but your environment. You know what I'm saying? The words you
mm.
say, the way you think, everything, your
Everything,
outlook,
yeah.
your gestures, everything. And I think what it is like because in Islam we have a big thing of piety. Piety is a big thing. But one thing that it does say, so the Quran will tell you to be pious. Yeah, be a pious person. But it's saying piety, but how? How do you become pious? How do you become pious? Right? So people can interpret it as, well, I just look, I stand there with my hands behind my back and I look like I'm a pious person. It goes beyond that
Yeah.
because these are levels where you have to internally, you're doing the work. Internally, you start internally first and then you work externally. And then when you invocate God internally. A
Mm,
lot of brothers are invocating externally. So they look externally. God is already here.
yeah.
Allah, we believe, is within you, within all things, within all creation,
Mm.
within every atom and every cell and every bion and
Is
every
that
zeal.
traditional Muslim belief? Because I heard that they believe that God is entirely separate from the universe from
Yeah.
watching debates and
Well,
stuff. Yes. Is that more of a
yeah, but you
Sufi
see,
belief then?
this is the thing, because if God is conscious, let's look at God as consciousness, okay?
Mm,
And a consciousness that's way beyond our understanding. I'm not saying that I am God. I
mm.
can never say that I am God. I can't say that I have the ability to be able to command uh, nature or the
Yeah.
heavens. To an extent, I can. To a degree, I can. But one thing that I do have is the ability to be able to create. I've been given that gift to be able to manifest and create. Okay.
Yeah.
So we have an aspect of God within us. Yeah.
Mm.
We can't say that we are, but we have an aspect of the consciousness of creation
Yeah.
that is known as Allah that is within us. Okay.
Mm.
And it's funny. It's funny because when you look at your makeup, if you look at the Vitruvian Man, Da Vinci painted the
Mm.
Vitruvian Man, you know, he's
Yeah,
standing
with the
out as a
arms out.
star
Yeah.
with the arms out. And then you go to, I think it's like the 5% Nation, they'll say, "Oh, you're Allah." And then some people say, "What?" They say, "No, you're Allah. Look, arm, leg, leg, arm, head. You're Allah, right? So you stand there as a star with your arms out, pointed outwards. Arm, leg, leg, arm, head. Spells Allah, okay?
Mm.
But it doesn't mean that you're Allah. It doesn't mean, do you get it? It doesn't,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
doesn't, do you understand? It doesn't mean that you're Allah. It doesn't mean that you're God. It means that you have God in you.
Mm.
You're an expression of God.
Yeah.
You're an expression of God. So you're an expression, positive and negative neutrons
Mm.
that are inside, you know what I mean? You know, an atom or
Yeah.
going around it. You're an expression of that. So if you're positive, if you have the ability to be positive or negative. You have that ability in you because it's in you. God has that ability in him. You get
Yeah.
it?
I get it.
So the
Yeah.
ability, do you understand? Because
Mm-hmm.
if we look at it like this, it's like you can't have Horus without Set.
Mm.
Simply because it wouldn't work. Simply because it's like you can't have the sun without the moon. You can't have up without down, forward without back,
Oh, do you mean
in
Saturn
without out.
Osiris?
Saturn Osiris, sorry. Yeah,
Osiris,
Saturn
yeah, yeah.
Osiris. You can't have Set without Osiris. Yeah. So the thing is
That's
is like
the
you can't
duality, right? The polar
duality.
opposites. Yeah.
You can't
Yeah.
it won't it can't work without, like, you have to have duality.
Yeah, I
we
agree.
we
Yeah.
we exist, duality is everything, everything. So if we're living out every day in the flesh what we're living out internally, we must have an aspect of that which can connect us with something outside of ourselves,
Mm.
something outside of ourselves. And that something outside of ourselves, in my opinion, is Allah. That something outside of ourselves is the consciousness that makes up physical matter, or the
Yeah.
consciousness that
It's like the
makes up the
conscious field.
unseen, the conscious field.
Yeah.
Exactly. So this is like, the ethers, something
Yeah.
that connects us with the ethers,
Yeah.
like
It's
we
more like
can't we can't
metacism. Yeah.
that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. As opposed to, well, you know what? I'm just gonna give this outward appearance of my piety, and I'm not gonna focus internally, spiritually on piety or what it is. You get it? Do you get it? And
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
going to, you know,
You're
it's
not
it's
really
like a
doing
brain.
any
It's like
evolution or anything like that, you know. You're
exactly,
just going through the
exactly.
motions more or less. Yeah.
Yeah, and you find a lot of that, just to say that I am a particular thing, be it Christian, Muslim, Jew, whatever.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to say. It's a lot easier to say, oh, that's what I am. And then I think that over time, man has been given religion or faith to be able to connect with something higher than himself. I think that well, one would say historically, how do we know Abraham existed? One
Yeah.
would say historically, how did we know Enki and Enlil existed? We can only go by the Sumerian tablets, right?
Yeah.
But even then, it's like these things, I believe, have been left here, be it from ancient civilizations, for us to be able to sort of learn from. Now, I think that there is a truth to it, to an extent, but it's almost like is used the words like Chinese whispers. It's like
Yeah,
over periods of time, it's lost its entire pure value. Do you
yeah.
get it? But it
The
doesn't
original meaning,
necessarily
kind of.
the
Yeah,
original meaning, the original
yeah.
meaning. Because let's be honest, let's be real. There have been many ancient civilizations that have existed that have their own creation story,
Mhm.
okay, of man. And then one could say, well, which is the ultimate truth out of all of these? Do you get it?
Yeah,
Which one sort of which one do I abide by? Because now what it is, I have to believe.
yeah.
If I decide to, if I decide to go with one, I say I have to believe, unless you know for without like for an infallible, no infallible mistakes, for a fact, 110%, this is how it happened. You get it? Then that's
Mm,
the only way that you'd know, by a fact.
for
And
sure.
that's what I respect about you. You'll actually read into things. You know what
The
I'm saying? You
historical
don't just think
stuff, yeah. The
the
archaeology,
historical
yeah,
side. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
you go by that. Even if it's
Because you
not
can
sure if you
use,
look at. Yeah,
yeah, because you can use like historical accounts and archaeology
right.
and cross-reference it with what's in the Bible, for example, or the Tanakh,
Yeah,
whatever it is, and then you can see what matches up with history and what doesn't.
yes,
And if it doesn't match up with
yeah,
history, why would you believe that over what you can factually prove?
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. You would only go by what you could actually factually prove.
yeah,
So I wouldn't discredit like that question that you asked at all. Like I wouldn't put that account aside. Um, because that's what I think that's similar to like Zoroastrianism,
yeah,
is
yeah.
it not? You know what I'm
It's
saying? Like
somewhat
I couldn't.
similar, yeah.
There's
I
some
believe
elements there.
Zoroastrianism is a very it's a duality as well. So I think Azura Madra is I believe he's the
Mm,
good god,
yeah.
and Ahriman
Yes.
is the evil
Yeah.
god.
It's the
Yeah,
evil god. Yeah.
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 Maybe,
So you
yeah, I
get
think that's the way it
you
is.
see, and
Yeah,
that's the thing. Like you always get these themes of two opposing forces.
yeah,
You always get these themes of duality. You're never just gonna get a theme of one creative aspect of or
mm,
expression of the universe. We even see that in movies, man. You know what I mean? Thanos against the
yeah,
Avengers, you know,
exactly.
Neo against Agent Smith. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? There's always this, you
the
need
good
that.
versus evil. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like two polarities. But the reason I brought up
yeah,
Atrahasis' story, the Sumerian flood myth, is because Enki.
mm,
He's the one who warns Atrahasis or Noah, but he's also the
right,
one who creates humanity in that myth.
right,
Well, he's tasked with creating humanity by Enlil, his brother, but then he gives
okay,
them more intelligence than they're supposed to have. And then if you go into
right,
the Greek myths, instead of Enki and Enlil is Zeus and Prometheus. And
yeah,
Prometheus he's not the brother of Zeus, but in some of the stories they're like blood brothers, I guess you could say. And
yeah,
Prometheus is the creator of mankind in that, him and Athena. And then together
right,
they create humanity. And then first Prometheus steals fire and he's punished by
yeah.
Zeus.
Steals
And
fire from the
again,
gods.
he steals fire from Zeus, the king of the
Right,
gods. Yeah.
right,
And then he when the flood happens and Zeus wants to wipe out humans, Prometheus tells his son Deucalion to build the ark so him and
right.
his family can survive. Yeah, yeah,
Okay. So what do you think, like with tying that in with like Abrahamic faiths, right?
yeah,
How do you sort of see the Abrahamic faith within the context of like if you contrast those myths
yeah,
with the Abrahamic faith, how do you sort of
yeah.
contrast the Abrahamic
The
faith
way
to
I
that?
see it is that Enlil is Yahweh or El, because he's
Right,
called El sometimes, called Yahweh sometimes, other times, right?
right.
So I think Enlil is El, because that's where El comes from. Like
So who are the
etymologically,
Elohim?
but that's just gods, pure. So you could just say
Right,
that you could say that's either the angels,
right,
or
yes,
you
the
could say
elves.
it's or you could say at that point in time the Abrahamists or the Hebrews were still polytheistic.
Right.
So it was Yahweh talking to the other gods.
It's funny,
Yeah.
man, because some would say that the Bible itself speaks of a galactic council, and that
Okay.
galactic council is because you have cherubims, seraphims,
Yeah.
archangels, the angels, archangels. So there's a
Seraphim.
there's a
Yeah.
yeah, there's a hierarchical order,
Mm.
that exists. You know what I mean? Within, and it's well understood within Sufism, because we have to believe in the unseen, and we have to believe in the jinn, we have to believe in angels, you know, and we have to believe in that.
To be
Now,
fair, I don't really believe in angels in like the Abrahamic sense of some servants
right,
of God. I think it's because
right,
angel means messenger, right? So it could be
messenger,
a
yeah,
messenger from any god,
right.
right? So if it
So
says
you do you not
angels,
believe do do you not believe in hierarchical beings? Let's
depends what you
say
mean by
like
hierarchy. Because
so celestial,
you could
yeah,
have spirits of Earth and then spirits of
right,
space or the planets, and then you could have
yeah,
spirits that are in a completely different dimension, right? Like they talk about
right.
seven heavens. So those would be
The seven heavens,
hierarchies.
yeah,
Those would be
yes,
hierarchies, but within each of those hierarchies, those spirits might serve different gods. And then
right,
they would have a hierarchy
okay,
within themselves as well.
right. I get you. I
Yeah.
understand. I get you. You know, yeah, it's
Just an example of that is Mars, for example.
mm, yeah,
The planet Mars, the the spirit of Mars, the war spirit of Mars, one of the names is Baalzebub. So you would invoke
yes.
Baalzebub when you want to invoke the rest of the angels because
When
he's chief of Mars. Yeah. Sometimes
right,
he's an angel,
okay,
sometimes he's a spirit, but yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's interesting how planets are associated with angels, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. So that's
and
more of a
and
like
and
a
and
yeah, go on.
no, it's and those planets because even within the occult aspect of that of Islam, there is an occult aspect to it. Um, you would call upon those angels on certain days of the week,
Yeah.
right? So if it's
Because that's
Jupiter,
their
it would be
energy.
on a Thursday. That's an energy that's
Yeah.
attributed to that day of the week. Um, so you would call upon that angel on that day of the week. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh, which might be a Thursday. Jupiter, Jupiter. I think the energy of Jupiter is Thursday. Friday is Venus.
It could
So
be,
you'd
yeah. Because I
call
think
you, yeah,
Thursday comes from four.
Thor.
Four's day.
Yeah,
And
that's
four is the
right.
son of Odin. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
think it's Jupiter.
you
I
know,
think so if you look at
yeah,
Tacitus, he equates the
right,
Germanic gods with the Roman gods. So
right.
Jupiter will be Zeus. And so
Yeah,
I believe he equates Thor with Jupiter there as well. So Thor will be
right.
Thursday as well, and Jupiter's
Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's right. So it's interesting how these things sort of. But again,
But again,
yeah.
I was
No,
going to
sorry.
say again, if we're talking about Thursday or Thursday or
Yeah.
Jupiter, we're not dealing with angels
That
in the Christian sense, are
no,
we? We're dealing with
no.
spirits again.
That's right.
Yeah. So if you're invoking,
That's right.
if you're invoking angels in Islamic on Thursday, are you speaking to an angel or are you
Mm,
speaking to a spirit?
right. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. You're right. That's a good question. That's a good question. That's a very, very, very good question. The key, the key is to call on nothing but Allah, right?
Yeah.
But these it doesn't mean that these entities are not here to. I don't like using the word serve
Mm.
because some might say in scripture it
Assist.
says they're to assist.
Yeah.
They're there to assist. Okay,
Mm.
so you work with them. It's a
Mm.
relationship that you have. Okay, and it depends, man. It depends on what you're asking for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the level of what you're asking for in order for you to get the outcome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Um, because in some cultures, I think we spoke about this the other day. Some of these entities require certain things
Yeah, I
on
remember. Yeah.
certain days. On certain
Mm,
days at certain times, they require certain things. You know what I
mm.
mean? Certain days and times. So there's some things that you can't do in a particular time of the day. You might have to do it at the highest point in the day of the
Yeah,
sun or just before the sun sets. You know what I mean? Um, but there's some things on certain days that you need to do.
yeah. But
There's
this is
some
like
things on I
astrology.
can't. It
Because
is.
I bet
It
it's
is.
all to do with this astrology, the planets, what the alignment of the
Yeah.
planets and the energies coming onto Earth. Yeah,
Yeah, man. Because it's without a doubt, man. It's like if the sun gives us sustenance and life, and it emits all of its
radiation.
bountiful radiation to give us life, to give, you know, the plants life, to give the trees life, to give us it just gives us life,
Yeah,
the sun.
but
Without
that's
it, we'd
why
have no
often in polytheistic or pagan traditions, the sun is represents the highest god or
yeah,
Helios. Because that's the life
that's right.
giver.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah,
a life giver. It gives life. It is, you know. But without it, what I mean, we wouldn't have. And then how, like the whole thing with the moon and water and how it affects
yeah.
emotions and but with all that said, it's like, what are the other planets? What energies how do they affect us? Do you know what I mean?
Again,
How you know?
that's why you need to go in. That's why you need to do some Neoplatonism or some Greek
Right.
myths, because that's what all the gods
Yeah,
represent. They're represented by planets. So Venus is
that's right.
love, Mars is war,
Yeah.
Jupiter is the
Yes.
king of the gods, Kronos is
Yeah.
time, and Kronos is
Yeah.
Saturn. Yeah, and
Saturn.
he's
Yeah.
he's time because Saturn is the old cosmology, Saturn's the outermost planet.
Yeah.
So he's the one who started time. He's the first one to move. Yeah,
Father Time. Father
yeah,
Time, and it says that Saturn rules over matter, you know,
yeah.
um, and that we are subject to Saturn, you
But
know.
he's the one
It
who
rule
controls
it.
reincarnation
There you go.
because he's the
And
Time
and
Lord, right?
and
And he's
it's the
the
Time
he's
Lord.
he's the Grim Reaper as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So if you
and the
wanna
bones, things
come
to do
back,
like the skeleton.
yeah,
No, go on.
yeah, because he's like
Yeah,
death,
yeah.
right? He's time, so he's death
Like
as well. So if you
that's
want to
right.
reincarnate and have a good life, you need to sacrifice to Saturn, which is what you see elites do.
They say when you come back and you incarnate, you have to go through the ring of Saturn. So at the North Pole of Saturn, you have a
Exactly.
hexagram.
The
You have the
hexagon, yeah.
hexagram, right? And yeah, the hexagon, and that it's a never ending. Like you've seen
Storm.
the videos, right?
I've
Storms.
seen
It's
it,
a
yeah.
never ending storm. But that storm, when you look at the storm, it's the same direction as the Tawaf, right? Around the
Yes,
Kaaba,
I've seen that. I've
right?
seen that, yeah.
Because you'll see the cube, right? The
Mm,
black cube, Saturn's represented as a black cube
yeah.
because the black cube has six sides. The cube has six
I know,
sides,
I've seen it, yeah, yeah.
you know,
And there's a lot of research
where
that's been done into Judaism and how the
right
god of Judah is Saturn, Kronos.
is Saturn.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. It's like
But a
people
lot of
look
people
at
don't like
Saturn
to
and
talk about that.
they don't like talking about
You
it,
don't
man.
want to talk
They
about
think
that, you
it
know?
they yeah, and they think it's they think it's evil. You know what I mean?
Mm.
They think it's evil. And flip the word evil around and it says live. You know what I mean? It's what we live by, like it's what we live by. What you think is evil is what we live by,
But again, like we were talking about before, were polarities. There could be a good side
right.
to Saturn and a bad side to Saturn.
There
It just depends
there
how you
is.
use it. Yeah.
There is, man, like
And if the bad side of Saturn, that's death, right? You
the
know what I
bad
mean?
side
That's
is
real
death.
bad. Yeah, that's real bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, but the whole thing with Saturn is that it's the heart. It teaches you, because even in astrology, it teaches you resilience. So
Mm.
Saturn is the great teacher, yeah, and it teaches you um heaviness. It's very heavy. It's very
Yeah.
slow. Okay, so you have to be incredibly patient. Okay, when you're dealing, like if you know anything about like a Saturn retrograde, when you say, "Oh, Saturn is in retrograde," right, in
A
your
bit, yeah.
house or in your sign.
Mm.
Well, what that means in astrology is that at that point in time, things feel very hard in
Mm.
life. Okay, some people they call it like the dark night of the soul.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's an old text.
It's
It's
like very
actually a poem.
oppressive. Yeah.
Very oppressive, very heavy, and you feel
Yeah.
it, and
Because
it
they
could last for years.
because Saturn is what's his name? He's lead as well, the heaviest metal.
Lead, yes, the heaviest
Yeah.
metal. That's right,
Yeah.
which is lead. Lead,
Yeah.
very lead dense in
Dense, yeah.
yeah. And with that said, it's like you feel very you when you attribute Saturn to life philosophically, you understand that it's there as a teacher. So it's there for you it's there for you to learn from. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There are some say, oh, the entities that exist within that planet that represent that are purely negative.
Yeah.
But like anything is dualistic. There's positive and negative.
Yeah.
So you can use that energy to help you.
You just have to be careful with these kind of entities, you know?
You have to be very careful.
Because
Yeah,
they're representation of the god Saturn, right?
that's right.
They're like they come from Saturn. They're
They come
they represent Saturn.
represent
So if
they
you're dealing with
represent
that
that,
kind
yeah.
of energy, you have to be very careful with how you
Yeah, because
approach them.
very, 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 very serious, heavy energies.
Yeah,
Very, very serious energies, you know, that like to be honest, they're not playful.
exactly.
They're
That's
not
what I'm
they're
trying to
not
get at.
they're not
They're not
playful,
playful.
you know.
Yeah.
They're not playful at all. And some would even go as far as saying that it will test you beyond your limits because you will do things like ritualistically, you will do things that will scare you, that will shock you. It's there to spiritually evolve you.
Yeah.
Saturn is there for spiritual evolution. Do you know what I mean? It's there for spiritual growth. Um, so yeah, man, I've looked into the planet, man. It's interesting that you bring it up as well, man. That these planets have an effect on us. I
Mm.
think again because we spoke about astrotheology briefly before, and how
Oh
in
yeah,
the Bible
constellations. Yeah. Yeah.
constellations and how these sort of you know these us to be born at a certain time within the zodiac,
Yeah.
right? Like we're some say, oh, we're actually physical stars that
Mm.
have fallen,
I've heard
okay,
about
to
Star Child, right?
incarnate. We're star children,
I've heard that.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
That have physically fallen to incarnate into a material body to experience what it's like in a material body,
Yeah.
right? But we experience it whilst we're growing. So what we learn and what we take away from our journey at that point in time is what it's sort of like it elevates you every single time,
Yeah.
right? So some people are like, well, how do you stop reincarnation?
Yeah.
How do you stop it? The way to stop it is by being conscious, so that when you wake up, you know who you are and you decide not to come back.
Yeah.
One thing I don't agree with is, and I've heard like a lot of schools of thought talk about this, is having a spiritual contract on the other side and saying
Okay.
I want to be born into this life at this time, and I don't think like personally, I don't think it works that way.
Yeah. So my
You know,
opinion on
what
that
are
is
your
that,
thoughts on that? Yeah,
so I haven't looked very deep into it, but I do think that there are people on Earth that try to do what you just said, like they do rituals or sacrifices on Earth, so when they're
right.
born again, they get a better life.
They
I don't
get
know
a
if it
better
works
life.
or not. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know if it works,
yeah,
but I believe there are
yeah.
people that try that. Yeah,
I think the elite, I think the
that's what I
global
was
elite,
getting at. That's what I was getting at. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I think they understand the way of reincarnation. They know how to come back. They
yeah,
understand this is why blood is important
yeah,
because it connects. It's what connects them etherically. It's what connects them to the
yeah,
physical. You
yeah,
know, it allows them to be able to come back. It's a
yeah.
channel, and they know
If
how
you
to
look
do it.
into like Norse mythology, for example, or even Buddhist,
Yeah,
or even like Indian Buddhist mythology, there's a lot to do with reincarnation there as well, and like the family
yeah,
line and stuff like that. And so like
yeah.
I know like for the Buddhists, for example, they would go and look at like toys and stuff from their past lives and remember them,
Right.
and that's how they remember their past lives. And
Okay.
there are scholars as well who do the same thing for like Norse mythology. So you know the barrows that are all over Europe.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
the
know.
not tombs, but like the underground barrows.
They're
So
down the ground. Yeah.
yeah. So their theory is that in these barrows, as a child, like around Christmas time or whatever, you'd go into the
Mm,
barrows and like you'll stay
mm.
there for like overnight or whatever, and that's when you remember your past life and you pick up the swords and the weapons you used to use in the past life.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's almost like a triggers.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
like
And
triggers to
again, you
get you
do that
to
at a
remember.
certain point of it. You do it. I think it's in like around October, November time. You do
Right.
that. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they've figured it out. They understand, you
yeah,
know. But I think the energy, the, you know, you see, this is the thing. It's like the energy and the entities that they use in order to be able to do this requires them to have to give sacrifice.
mm. Yeah. But
So
they
in
would
order for them
sacrifice
to be able,
animals. Yeah,
oh, really? Not
yeah,
humans.
animals. No, there's very little. There's a lot of like talk of human sacrifice in like European
Yeah,
mythology, not mythology, sorry, but the culture, like European pagan culture. But when you look into
yeah,
actual evidence, there's very little. We have Julius Caesar, and he speaks about the
right,
Wicker Man. So like,
right.
the
Yes, the
giant
Wicker Man.
statue, they put people in it, yeah. That's one
Yeah, and they
source
burn
we
him.
have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But that's the only source, and he's invading these guys, so take that with a grain of
right,
salt. And then the only other
right.
source we have, well, there's a few others, but one of the other main sources we have is when they have a criminal, they'll
Mm,
sacrifice the criminal or execute the criminal in the name of God. Because
right,
they believe no man can sentence another man to death. So you'd kill him in the
right.
name of Thor, not Thor, sorry, Tyr, the god of justice.
Uh,
So that
yeah,
would count as a sacrifice, but it's not really a
right.
sacrifice, if you know what I mean.
Now, do you think this is why in within like modern day Christianity, they would say that Jesus is was the Lamb of God because animal sacrifice, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
this was
yeah.
in order to sort of like uh take away that power, right,
Mm,
of being able to get an exchange from these other entities on the other side.
yeah,
Nah. The thing is when if you remove that power by saying that, well, Jesus died on the cross for your sins, so you don't need to sacrifice anymore,
mm,
right? Because in the Old Testament, they used to take,
yeah.
you know,
Animals.
the
They did
animals up
human.
to the
If we're talking
mountains,
about
and
human
yeah,
sacrifice, you need to look at the Old Testament
yeah.
because there's a lot of
Oh
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's a lot of that there.
See
Yeah,
God as well. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
always find it
That's
funny when
yeah.
people talk about pagan sacrificing, and then where you look in the
Oh
Bible, it's
man,
right
it
there
was
as
full
well, you
of
know.
it,
So it's
man. It
like,
was
what are
is
you on about?
yes.
Yeah, yeah,
It's full of it, man. But it's you know the whole thing about that is more so to, you know, why is it, what do you, in your opinion, do you think that was sort of taken away from them to be able to not have that power by implementing
Oh, the Jesus.
Jesus. Yeah, instead of allowing them to be able to tap
No, I
into
don't
these
think so. I
energies.
think the no, I don't think so. I think the
Huh?
Jesus resurrection and sacrifice is more to do with the Torah
Mm,
and the end of the
right.
ritual sacrifice. I don't think it has anything to do with European paganism or anything like that.
Okay.
I think
All
it's
right.
more of like it's more of a centralized thing to do with their faith. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I've always wondered that. I've pondered that. I've been like,
Mm.
knowing that a lot of cultures still do that,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But you have to remember at that
to
time, they didn't really have any contact with like Europe, Northern Europe anyway.
right.
When Christ was about and Jesus was about, this is like what 0 AD basically, right? So you've got
Yeah.
Italy, you've got Turkey, and they did some
Mm,
sacrifices to animals. By the time you reach like the
mm,
late Bronze Age, the human
yeah.
sacrifices in the Mediterranean are pretty much done. Yeah,
Right.
the only people still
Right.
doing it are Carthage, so the Phoenicians.
Okay.
They
The
keep
Carthaginians.
Yeah, Carthaginians and because they're Phoenicians, right?
Right.
They're the people who
Yeah.
keep doing it, and then the Romans are like they keep sacrificing their children. These people are disgusting. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. It's
yeah,
well, that's oh
yeah, yeah. So like in like the Iliad, for example, do you know the Iliad
yeah.
with Achilles and all
Iliad,
that?
yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
one of the kings, I think it's Agamemnon, or either Agamemnon or his brother. What's his brother's name? Menelaus, I think, believe. Either way, one of those guys, they sacrifice their daughter at the beginning of the story.
Right.
Yeah. So you
Right.
have sort of human
Okay.
sacrifice in like the Bronze Age, but once you reach
Right.
the like the Iron Age and like the proper Greek era, so like 800
Yeah.
BC around that, it
That's when it
stops.
sort of
It
it
stops. Apart
stops,
from
yeah.
Phoenicians, they're still doing it. Yeah.
Is that because of the advent of Christianity?
No, this is before Christianity. So
Is it before Christianity? Yeah.
Christianity's like 1 AD, one the first century, right?
Okay.
But by the time you get to the 7th, 8th century BC, so 800
Yeah.
years before the time, like around the time of Homer and the early Greek writers, it stops. You
Okay.
don't really see any human sacrifice. Yeah,
Right.
there's still a
I
bit, but
mean,
it's far less. Yeah,
it's far less. So like
yeah.
even with the native, like Mexican tribes that you had in South
Oh,
America,
they're doing all sorts of
that was the
stuff over
big
there,
thing.
man.
Yeah, that
They
was a
did
big
all
thing,
sorts of
man.
stuff, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
You see, and that's partly why you see, like when it
Do you
comes
know? I got
to
one story about that. The Aztecs,
mm,
when they moved south
right,
into that place where they lived on the island on the lake. They made
mm,
alliances with the other tribes, and so they had a
right,
marriage. And guess what they did? They took the princess and then they skinned her alive, and they wore her skin
wow,
as like a coat. And then
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
that's another
crazy
level. Like,
stuff.
do you
That's
know what?
crazy stuff.
Sometimes this is why I sort of look and I'm like, now that even like you have like some of the cartels, man, and
Exactly. They're still
they're
doing that
really
stuff.
into, they're still doing it, man. They're
They're
still
still doing
into
that
some
stuff.
dark
Dark stuff.
stuff, man. Like really, really
Yeah.
bad stuff. You know what
Stuff
I
we
mean?
don't
And
see
it's like,
anywhere else in the world. Not really.
nah,
Nah.
stuff you wouldn't even think of, like chopping off heads and hanging them off of
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, yeah.
some of the things, man. And it's like, are these entities that they work with that require these things of them in order for them to get a personal
Is
gain?
it that or is it like a genetic memory?
It could be. It could be a genetic
I lean
memory
more
because
towards
it's like,
that. Yeah. Because they're
yeah,
descendants
you know,
they're
from
descending
that,
from
that's
those
right.
people. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's right. So is it something that they still continue to do that their
Yeah.
forefathers may have done, you
They
know?
get into that mindset,
And
you know?
that's right, you know? And I think that's why a lot of like,
Because yeah, oh you can because it's not like
no,
everyone in
go
South
on.
America is doing that. It's the
No,
cartels
not
who are
at
in
all.
that
Not at all.
violence, you know? And it's the
Yeah,
violence that the Aztecs were perpetrating as well. Like the Aztecs were the most
yeah,
brutal of all those groups. The other groups, they might do human sacrifice, but even they were like,
right.
what's wrong with these people?
They're
Yeah.
taking it to another level.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
They used to sacrifice
Yeah,
like
that
tens of thousands of people in one day.
in one day.
In
Yeah,
one day. In one day.
yeah. To Quetzalcoatl and you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I don't think it was
it's just
Quetzalcoatl. It was one of the other gods, the
no,
sun god, I think.
right,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay.
Because Quetzalcoatl was
It
he's the god of wisdom, and he's like
right.
the rainbow serpent. But he's more of a
Yeah,
Mayan
that
thing.
yeah, the right,
Yeah, yeah,
right. Yeah, Mayan.
yeah. He's more
Yeah.
Mayan. Yeah,
Yeah, and that's the it's and that was prior to the Aztecs. That was before,
same time,
around the same time.
same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and man, it's Abrahamic faiths have sort of taken man away from that
Mm,
in a sense because it's like the barbarity, I don't know if it's like the point in time of the conditions of the world and
mm.
prior to the Industrial Revolution, you sort of had, an old way of doing things.
Yeah,
People looked at, the world in a different way and technology sort of changed a lot of things. But
mm,
prior to that, it was people in nature, and they worked with nature, and that
yeah,
that relationship with nature had those people doing certain things.
yeah.
Even
Definitely.
today, like you see, there are, what certain people did in Benin, you know,
Yeah.
in
Mm,
Africa, man. It was the same sort of thing. The Dahomey and what they did.
mm.
They're just sacrificing people when in order for them to gain power,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. They used to do a
Yes,
ritual with
yeah.
the people they enslaved, where they'll do a ritual
Yeah,
to make them forget their lineage and their history.
their lineage. It's crazy,
Yeah,
man. Like, and that's the
crazy.
it's like these are real. So it's yeah,
And there's still like a there's a whole like not people trafficking, but what's the word? Like not organ trafficking, kind like black magic organ trafficking network
yeah,
throughout all of Africa. Yeah.
yeah,
Because I
yeah.
watched
It's a
one
big
like
thing, man.
it's big, it's big. I
It's a
watched one
big thing,
documentary
man.
I think it was in East Africa somewhere. They have
Yeah,
the motorbike drivers
right.
like they like taxis basically, right, on motorbike, and they all work
Yeah,
together and all friends. So one of them goes missing, but they manage to track his phone somehow, and they go to a
right.
warehouse, and then there's just like people like up on hooks and stuff like that, getting decapitated,
Yeah,
all sorts of stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
It's
it's like
crazy,
part they
man.
found like where they're working out that trafficking ring, you know? It's crazy, man.
Yeah, little kids and things like that, and even
I think they were just
albinos,
taking
man.
everyone.
They're very
Yeah, albinos is big. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
albinos are a big one, you know. Like it just makes you wonder, man. And then, you sort of wonder, and these a lot of people that they do it are the leaders, man, in order for them
yeah.
to
Oh, yeah,
maintain
yeah, yeah.
power,
It's for the leaders.
you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. So you
It's
just get
for the
like your
leaders, you know.
the gangsters do it for the leaders. Yeah,
That's right, you
yeah.
know.
Like
Yeah,
they get
just
the
in
body
order for them to
parts.
maintain wealth.
It goes to the witch doctors or the shamans, and then from there they do it for the elites.
But yeah, it's the way of the world, man. That's how these people, you know, they've figured out the science behind it,
Mm,
in order how for them to get material gain
mm,
through and that's the thing, coming back to it, working with Saturn, it's a heavy price to pay.
mm.
It's a heavy price to pay. Those working with those energies, those entities, what they require, it's a heavy price to pay. But yeah, man, brother, it's been nice speaking with you.
Yeah, you too, bro.
And I hope we can do this again
You too,
sometime,
see.
you know?
Definitely, I'll have you on again. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
beautiful, man. Like, I
That's
love
good.
that,
Because
bro.
I had
And
like a whole list of stuff we didn't cover.
no, we can cover that another time, man. We
Yeah,
can
yeah,
do that.
yeah.
We could do,
Next time, definitely.
yeah.
Yeah. But this was good.
Yeah, we can cover
Yeah,
that another time. Now, let's do this again, Jay. Let's do it again, man.
definitely, definitely.
And
Yeah, we'll do that.
yeah, those other questions, you know. Yeah,
Definitely.
man. Have a nice session today at the
You
gym.
too, man. I will, yeah.
Yeah,
I hope your family's all right.
yeah,
Your
man.
sister and niece
Thank
coming
you.
over, yeah?
Yeah, they'll be here shortly. They'll be here
Good, good.
shortly. So my niece and
You
nephew,
have a
and
good time,
we should
yeah?
be seeing them. Yeah, we'll do, man. Got to take care of the missus. She's sick.